drinking, drugging, cheating, these are not wounds. And they're not even the deepest protective strategies. If you keep trying to change behavior and behavioral patterns without understanding what sits beneath the behavior, you will stay stuck. In this video, I'm going to make 3 clear distinctions. We're going to distinguish between behavioral patterns, protective strategies that lie beneath the behavioral patterns, and the wound, which lies right at the base, right at the bottom, which is the root of everything, so that you stop fighting the wrong layer. So let's talk about me. There was a period in my life when I was fighting a raging war with the eating disorder bulimia. On the surface, I suppose it looked like vanity, or perhaps it looked like a lack of discipline, or maybe an obsession with my weight. It was none of those things. Throughout my childhood, my mother had told me repeatedly, "No man will ever love you. You will always be alone." And furthermore, my soul chose a life which included incest with my father. These left their imprints, of course. As a child, I didn't interpret any of that, either spiritually or philosophically. I didn't have the tools. I simply did what all children do. I internalized it, and I felt dirty. I felt unworthy. I felt wrong. I felt bad, and I felt so very alone. When a dog is abused, it often turns on itself. It chews its own paws. It flinches at touch. It becomes hyper vigilant, or it goes numb. Now, we can all see that the dog isn't evil. It's simply overwhelmed. And children are no different. When something happens that feels violating, confusing, or shame-inducing, a child cannot process it, so it adapts, and that's precisely what I did. For me, that adaptation looked like control and self-directed harm. Bulimia for me was not about weight. It was about punishing the body, which I then believed was dirty, was wrong, was bad, was shameful. It was about controlling the body that once felt so very out of control. It was about managing my shame privately. I wasn't just regulating my state. I was attacking the part of me I believed caused the violation. This is why addiction is so often self-directed aggression. Just look at cutting, for example. Look at anorexia nervosa. Look at binge eating. Look at sabotaging something very good, the moment it begins to feel safe. This is not weakness. This is a body which is trying to survive unbearable shame. So the first point I'm making in this video is this. Behavior or behavioral patterns regulate state. They change your emotional state, the way you feel. Behavior is what you do to change how you feel. Perhaps you drink, perhaps you purge, maybe you smoke, possibly you scroll or you cheat, maybe you overwork. Behavior changes state. Very often it reduces anxiety or distracts from anxiety. It numbs loneliness and it creates a sense of control. Bulimia changed my state. Later in life, I let go of the bulimia and I used smoking weed to change my state. So this was different behavior, but with precisely the same function. Behavior manages the heat, if we're coming back to the analogy of wounds and a fire. It does not extinguish the fire. It doesn't heal the wound. If you focus only on behavior, you're working at the surface. Now, the second point here is this. Underneath the behavior sits the protective strategy. The protective strategy structures your life. This is deeper than behavioral patterns. This is how you organize your life to avoid ever touching the wound. In my case, my strategy was control. Control my body. Control my exposure. Control my vulnerability. Control my need. If I controlled myself, I would never be blindsided or controlled by others again. If I handled my shame alone, I would never risk being rejected for it. The strategy for me was, I will not be at the mercy of love. I will not depend. I will manage this alone. And this protective strategy shaped all my relationships. My fierce independence came from it. My emotional distance was instigated by it. My identity. And here is the truth that most people do not want to face. You cannot simply remove a protective strategy that was built for and designed for survival. If your system believes that closeness equals annihilation, you cannot just decide you're going to open up. If your system believes that exposure equals humiliation, you cannot simply declare vulnerability. Removing the protective strategy feels literally life-threatening. And this is not weakness. This is wiring. This is programming. Now, the third point to note here is this. The wound is the source. Underneath the protective strategy is the wound. So, not the bulimia, not the marijuana, not avoidance. The wound was, I'm dirty, I'm bad, I am unworthy, I will always be alone. That, for me, was the fire. The strategy was the barrier my system built around the wound. The behaviors, bulimia, weed, isolation, these were smoke. And when I stopped purging, I reduced some of the smoke, but the fire was still burning. So smoke appeared in a slightly different format, a different pattern of behavior. If you remove the behavioral pattern without healing the underlying wound, something else will replace it. Always. Now, this may be a healthier pattern of behavior. It may be more socially acceptable, but it's still protective. Because protecting the wound, the source of the fire, is non-negotiable. When the wound is finally approached safely and within sacred container, completely felt and experienced, something truly fundamental shifts, something truly magic happens. The fire goes out. The strategy dissolves. And when the strategy dissolves, the behaviors fall away naturally. There's no force, no moral struggle, no constant self-management, simply absence of fire. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Stop confusing behavior with the underlying wound. Behavior regulates. Protective strategy structures, the wound burns underneath both of those. And if you fight only the surface, you stay trapped. If you would like to engage more deeply with this work, linked below, you will find the Wild Truth Path course. I've also linked a free guided initiation for you to embark onto your healing path. Let this settle. Healing wounds, changes